we'll get a second gear downshift. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy, and in today's video we're basically just going to be going over the modifications that I did in the Supra. The first part of this video I'm just going to show you guys the modifications if you didn't see my install video, so we'll just do kind of like a really quick walk around on how it changes the car with the looks, and then the other two things don't change the looks, but you guys will understand in just a second. The main part of this video though is going to be like a POV drive. I'm going to pick one of the two canyons that I live close by to, and we'll do like a point of view drive again, so you guys can kind of like hear how the modifications have changed the car, because this car is so exciting to drive because of it. So let's check her out. Before we go over anything here in the hood, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Speed Industry. So they actually have provided me with all the modifications on the car so far. So from the wing to the air intake we're gonna go over, and then the downpipe, and then also the lowering springs as well. Not only did they get all the parts shipped out really quick, but they helped me through the entire process with figuring out what I wanted. So basically I described to them what I wanted to do. So like the air intake, I was like, I want some like whooshes and some spoolie stuff and all that kind of stuff. And then he's like, hey, say no more. MST air intake, for example. So really great company. Not only do they ship really fast, but they will help you out, so then you can like pick out the best mods for what you're trying to accomplish. And yeah, so the first thing I already went over was the MST air intake, and you guys will notice in the POV this just adds so much more turbo noise. Like you really couldn't hear the turbo before with the Supra. You might be able to hear like a little hiss, but that's it. Whereas this gives you some kind of like blow off type sound, which is really nice, and just, yeah, makes the car sound so much better. And then the next thing, if you can kind of see it down there, is the downpipe. So I did a catted downpipe to start off with. Now I can do a catless downpipe, but then I'd have to tune the car. I don't want to void the warranty, so that's why we're just doing a catted downpipe. And I can tell you right now, it's already completely changed the car. Like the exhaust note is so much louder, and it pops every single time you downshift, and it just sounds absolutely insane. Like this car, from a sound perspective, just because of these two simple modifications, I mean, it's completely changed the car. Just completely changed the car. And I mean, you literally, with this air intake and with this downpipe, you can get both of these for under $1,000, and then your Supra will never be the same, just saying. Now, the next thing is the lowering springs. Now, I did just get in alignment today just to make sure that everything was good. And putting the lowering springs on, I did kind of mess up with the camber and everything. So, definitely recommend doing alignment after you get lowering springs put in, just to make sure the car's all good. But you guys can see the stance here with the Supra now is absolutely crazy. The tuck. Look at that. It just looks so good. And I'm on stock wheels, stock tires, all that. So just lowering springs. It was 1 inch in the front and then 0.75 inches in the rear. Completely transforms the car. Now the ground clearance obviously isn't as good, but it's honestly not that bad. The only difference that I have to make is coming into this little driveway here, I have to pull in forward. I can't back into the driveway anymore because it's just a little bit too low, but the front splitter isn't too crazy, so it doesn't do too much. But I know the camera's not capturing this in person. This looks like a super low, like sleek sports car. It looks absolutely fantastic, super aggressive on the road, and I definitely recommend just doing the lowering springs, not even coilovers, just these lowering springs, because not only does it look good, but the ride quality hasn't suffered, and you guys will see that in the driving portion. The mod that you guys have seen for a while was the spoiler. So I absolutely love this spoiler that I got from Speed Industry, because it's just like the old school Supra spoiler, but then it's finished in carbon fiber, so it's got like that kind of like modern take onto it. And yeah, it just makes the car look so much more aggressive. In terms of how it changes with the driving, the one thing that I have noticed, and I don't have like any evidence other than like how I feel, is when I have gone at speeds in Mexico above like 90 miles an hour, I have noticed the rear end kind of sits down a little bit better. It seems like this actually kind of helps a little bit. Obviously, I mean, this is going to affect airflow and all that, but like I actually think you get like legit downforce from the spoiler, which is pretty cool. And now that that's all done, now we get into the exciting part, which is driving the car with the mods. Well, actually, we got to get you guys a new exhaust clip and with the turbo, and then we'll get into the driving. this first acceleration is gonna be with the windows up, so you guys can kind of hear what that sounds like. We're first gonna let this Audi, as some people call it, drive by. Oh, of course, they get a red light as soon as they go. Okay, so here's the acceleration with the windows up. And hopefully you guys can hear the turbo. And the exhaust out the back. Like, the turbo is so cool, just with the, it kind of makes like a fluttering noise. Again, I crossing my fingers, the camera's capturing it. Sounds so good. And then you can hear the just pops. There's so many pops out the back. It's like popcorn, but like mixed with fireworks. Super, super cool. Absolutely love it. And we'll get a second gear downshift. It's so crazy. So like just that part of the driving is completely changed. And I'm gonna roll down the windows a little bit here. So this will let a little bit more noise into the cabin. So we'll go to the second. So there'll probably be a little bit of wind noise mixed in with this. But again, the turbo, it's such a cool sound. Completely transforms the car, makes it so much more exciting just because it sounds so cool. And those downshifts, oh boy. Those downshifts get me every single time. And I don't know if you guys can see the camera, but the sign in front of us and all the other signs, they're all orange now. Like, I mentioned this in my other videos, but it's still funny to me that this just turns every single sign orange. And here is windows down and then acceleration. The turbo noise every time. It just sounds, it's so fun. Like, my fuel economy is gonna be cut in half because I'm just gonna keep doing that. It's, oh my gosh, it is insane with the noise. Like, I understand that this doesn't add any extra power to the car with the set. Like, maybe the air intake, because it makes the car breathe a little bit better, and the catted downpipe, again, because the car breathes a little bit better, maybe it adds like 5 horsepower here and there. I can't really perceive a power difference, but the sound adds this extra level of drama to the car that makes it so much more exciting. And just that added sound you get, it almost makes the car feel faster because it's louder. I know everyone probably says stuff like that, but it's just so true. It's so fun. Like, half this video I know is just me like accelerating and then letting off the throttle. But listen to that. Like, that's so legit. It's such a fun car now to drive because the Supra already had like really great handling and it was really fun to drive. But the one thing that the Supra was missing was the sound, because all that you would get from stock was a little bit of popples out the back, not very loud, and they wouldn't always happen. And then in terms of the turbo noise, you just get like a tss, whereas now you get the turbo flutter and all that. And so this is how the car should sound from the factory. And now that we've gone over the sound, the thing I do want to talk about is the handling with the lowering springs. So the first thing, you guys do know that the ground clearance isn't as good. I've already mentioned that. They're lowering springs. It kind of comes with the territory. The next thing with the lowering springs is gonna be the ride quality that people are always worried about. So a lot of people will do coilovers on their car, and coilovers sometimes run the ride quality. Sorry, I gotta do this. But these lowering springs have not run the ride quality. It still rides just as smooth as stock. I really don't notice a difference with the ride quality. But I do notice a little bit of a handling difference. So I've noticed, especially with the rear end, it feels a little bit more planted. So before, sometimes when I would just like floor it, the rear end would kind of just go a little bit all over the place, and it wasn't like a good feeling. It wasn't like a fun oversteer feeling. It was kind of like the rear end wasn't just like perfectly balanced out to be super planted. Whereas now with the lowering springs, it feels like it's way more planted with the handling. And so like around a corner like this, which I'm not going very fast, but it feels like it hooks up just a little bit better. Like it feels like there's a slight performance difference with it. So just overall, I'm super happy with the mods, super excited about them. And they've just transformed the car. Like, this car just drives so much better than it did stock. Like, how could you not love that? And it still kind of does that BMW fart on the upshifts, but then you will get some gargles when you let off the throttle. And every single time I hear that, like, oh my gosh. Like, it's so fun. How could you not be in love with that? Oh my gosh, this car, like, this is my favorite car so far that I've ever owned. And now with these mods, it is just absolutely perfect. Like, look at that. It just hooks up so well every single time. I cannot say how fast I'm going. We're in Mexico, but it's so good with the handling now. It's so perfect. Like, this car, just like as a sports car, is so fun. And well, I hope you guys enjoyed this driving portion. Hopefully it helped out. And hopefully if you own a Supra, you are now going to get this air intake, and you're going to get this downpipe and lowering springs so that your car just looks so cool. And if you guys are wondering, by the way, I didn't really talk too much on cost. I kind of said on that. But you could get this whole setup, including the wing, for this, I might be like not exact on this, but for roughly about like just over $2,000, which I know sounds like a lot, but you're talking about just over $2,000 minus the wrap, obviously, to completely transform the look of the car. And then a wrap, I mean, those run anywhere from like 2 to 3 to 4 grand depending on what you do. And so let's just say 2 grand for each, so 2 grand for the parts and 2 grand for the wrap. For $4,000, you could have this car looking completely different and super unique, to where people follow you home and people take videos of you everywhere you go, but you still have fun driving it anyways. Now that's gonna sum things up for driving the car with the new mods. It's so exciting to drive, and there's really only one downside with the Supra now, and this is like the biggest first world complaint ever, but I just gotta tell you guys, because of how loud the car is now and because of the color and how it looks, it gets so much attention that it's hard to daily drive, because people are constantly like swerving, trying to take a video, all that kind of stuff. Like, I almost had someone hit into me the other day because they were trying to take a video of the car, which is kind of ridiculous, but it's just something I have to deal with now. Absolutely love the mods, absolutely love the build, super exciting, but it's just kind of hard when you live in a state that doesn't really have this car. I think there's like 1 or 2 other Supras that I've seen drive around, and they're completely stock from what I've seen. So yeah, it's just people aren't used to seeing it, I guess, especially in bright orange. So yeah, see you guys in the next video.